the selectmen stuff.
The plaques?
They look different. Yeah, they look different.
So we have the Ashland Day ones.
Maybe it's the angle you're sitting at?
That could be, yeah.
Get in
I
contact.
just remember them being all across.
All right, you're all set.
All right, good evening. We will call this Tuesday, February 19th, 2019 Board of Health meeting to order at 7:01. The agenda is subject to change and includes those items reasonably anticipated by the chair to be discussed at the meeting. Not all agenda items, in fact, will be discussed. And any other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. This meeting is being taped and broadcast live on WACA television and will be rebroadcast numerous times. Is there anybody else here recording the meeting? Seeing none, we will open it up for citizens' participation. Anybody here for citizens' participation? Seeing none, we will go to our third item on the agenda, goals, objectives, and communication with management. I'll turn it over to you, Diane, since this was yours.
So what I would like to do, I was perturbed that we had spent a lot of time with the budget review and to get it, I'll call it rejected. I thought we did a lot of work as board members. What I'd like to do is ask Michael Herbert and Jen Ball both to come to a meeting and discuss where we're at, because I think that we need to communicate better with them and find out, not necessarily our position as a board, because I think we know it. I think we, based on the email that we received, I think we know that, you know, they're telling us we're not getting a full-time position this year. So we need to find out from them where we're going with the staff that we have and the other resources that, you know, they have implemented, and find out how we're gonna get through this next year. And I think it's a critical part for our department, because when we first started this discussion, excuse me, when I first started this discussion, the purpose of this was to take, the full-time public health nurse was to take workload off of Mark. So we could do other things, Mark could have a little bit of breathing room, and with the discussions that we had about the public health nurse, I mean, we concentrated a lot on vaccinations, and I know you did at the last meeting as well. But we still need to concentrate on the fact that we need to help Mark Warren with the workload. And if we need to reach out to other resources in this, you know, in the town, because they've hired full-time staff, but I think we need to do it as a board and ask for help. So I would ask the board to consider having Michael and Jen come to a meeting and sit down and talk about this. Like I said, I feel that we spent all of us spent a lot of time, countless hours sitting around a table talking about the budget, and it's very upsetting to me that we're not able to move forward with it. So with that, I would ask, I'm thinking a Wednesday night might be better for them because we're here till 7. Maybe we could set just an agenda item to sit down and talk to them about these on a Wednesday evening, maybe at 6 p.m. Maybe do an hour meeting.
It has to be on a date when there's no selectmen's meeting on that day, right?
Yeah, well, we could meet downstairs. We don't have to necessarily be on TV.
No, it's not, because they have to be here on the selectmen's
Correct,
meeting.
but I mean, just in general, if it's not a selectmen's night, it would be a school committee night,
Yeah,
right? So
that's
we
fine.
wouldn't be able to meet in here probably likely, right?
Date has to be chosen in such a way that it's.
Well, even though their meetings start at 7, so even if we had to have, you know, I mean, I don't want to be here all night talking about, I mean,
Right.
hopefully it's just a matter of communicating and getting on the right page. So,
Well, there's quite obviously a lot to talk about, because I'll say it, I was floored by his email. Floored, offended, concerned, angry. See his side, respect his side. But I mean, I had a lot of emotions from reading that email. There was a lot in that email that, you know, and I think the one point that I want to really stress is that the burden should not be on us for the communication. The burden comes from the people who get paid here. And as I think I laid out in my email response back to him, how can you sit there and say you weren't aware of this when you, in fact, it's you who prints out the agendas and places them on his desks? So how could he say that he wasn't aware or that didn't know what we were doing? I don't think that's a fair statement. I'm very taken back by that. So, I mean, communication is crucial. And like I said in my email, it's okay, we all learn from this and we can all move on, but you know,
Well, and I think
there's
that-
more concerning things that I don't think we should probably talk about in that email that are huge red flags to me, so. And I'm surprised that he would actually put those in writing, so. talking about how the department's being run and so forth, so.
I don't expect that administrative issue should affect our budget and the public health.
Right.
It's their problem to resolve the administrative issues. It's their burden. They're being paid for it, and they need to manage it on their own. It's not us. What we're here to do is public health addressing. That's what we need, and we need help. We need help. That's what we're looking for. And then you cannot put public health at risk because you have an administrative issue with the management.
Right, right.
So that they're not things which can be weighed against each other to
No,
cut the budget.
I agree, I agree. But I like Diane's effort, you know, communication is key to everything, so, I mean,
Yeah.
I agree with you.
I mean, yeah, I definitely agree with your point on how much time was spent. A lot. And I think that just because of that alone, it would be nice to have them in the room and talk face to face and put some closure on it. Whether we get an answer that we like or don't like, at least we can tie the knot face to face in person. But, I mean, the only suggestion I would probably have, partly to keep it concise and directed, is to maybe know in advance the questions we want to ask. You know, that might be a good idea. I'm not sure, but it seems like it might be a good idea.
Well, from my perspective, again, being new on the board, and I remember starting this process, is why haven't we been successful for 2 years, and this is our 3rd year? I feel that collectively, all of us sitting at this table, this year, I can only speak for myself, spent a lot of time on this.
Yeah, you're right.
A lot.
Yeah, we did.
There was, like even tonight, I'm not staying past 9. I can't stay here till 11 o'clock at night and come into work. I don't want it to affect my job.
Right.
And I can't do that. And it's very, very, very upsetting to me what has happened since October 27th that we sat downstairs in that room.
Sure. Sure, I brought
More
that
than
up
I
last
want to
week.
say on public TV.
Yeah, I mean, I brought that up last week, of how much time, was spent downstairs. And I mean, of course, I questioned how much of that is really what we should be doing. But you're right, you're absolutely right in terms of how much time we spent.
I mean, from our perspective, though, we can only make a good case. We have no say in whether or not we actually get those positions or not, you know, which, you know, is basically everybody's point. So I think we tried to do as good of a job as we could do to present it to them. But, you know, when you said there were potentially other resources, because now Mark, and by extension us, have to get through this next fiscal year with basically, they're telling us the exact same man hours that we have to put toward already a job that requires a lot more man hours than we think we actually have, so.
Well, and again, I remember sitting around talking about this for the first time. The whole point of hiring a person was to help with the day-to-day workload currently, not to add. That was like secondary. Let's try to do what we need to do to be more efficient at what we're doing now. And we've talked many times about these 2 full-time positions. I do not work directly with them. I can't speak for what they do. I can't speak for it, and that's why I think that if we have them in front of us, I'm just speaking. I don't know,
Right.
and I don't want to speak for them.
Right.
And because we have been faced with some topics that we've talked about, and we have put priorities together, and now we have no or very little resources to get those things done. And we've expressed the concern that these things are very important to us as well as Mark and of course, you know, Laura, but, you know, that we said, okay, if we can't get what we need or we think we need to plan B it. And whether it's us collectively as a board or Mark that sits down with management, I just think that we need to pull it together.
From looking at the number of meetings that we've had in the past few years, we have had plenty this year, particularly during the winter season. So we normally used to have 1 or 2, but we have had continuously every 2 weeks a meeting. That itself takes his time and her time and our time. So that needs to be added into the whatever working schedule that we have. And without the meeting, we can't resolve the issues that we want. We have to address ABCD, who violates the food code or other thing. They have to come here before us. There's a time-based action that we have to take. We can't just postpone it to 2 or 3 months later on when people are suffering from the inactions of these vendors.
Well, it definitely needs to happen, for sure, regardless of how any of this turns out. is as we move into this next fiscal year, when something has to get done, if it gets done, it gets documented. If it doesn't get done, it needs to get documented as to why it doesn't get done.
Right.
So that next year, when we're going through this again, we have documentation that's been kept throughout the year. This was not done because we didn't have this.
Well, my
So that-
question is, can
yeah.
we risk the public health for a year?
Well, and that's,
That's what I'm
This is-
saying,
This
you
is
know.
beyond that point. This is
Yeah.
beyond that point. I'm saying, if it's beyond our control and we have the same operating budget, and there are certain things that don't get done over the course of the year as a result of it, come next year, when we're in the same position, we have to have this documentation.
well, and that's why my
Yeah.
suggestion was goals and objectives, and it, you know, it's not specific to the board, it's specific to where we're going as a town, I mean, with management, because, again, we spent a lot of time talking about the items that we need to, as well as want to get done,
Yeah.
but now, we don't, we, you know, we're stuck, so we need to talk about Plan B, and I think I'm the same way, I have very, very, very mixed reviews of the email, of, again, the time, the aggravation, I have a lot of things that I wanna get off my chest,
Sure.
and I think it would be a healthy meeting for us.
Okay, yeah, I support it completely.
The only caution that I would advise, and you take for what you want, is I read the email, counted to 10, sent my response, and did the old thing, if you're mad, don't send an email, and reread it, and I thought my email response back was fair, but more concerning that it didn't get a response at all, which was deeply concerning to me. But then when I stopped and read it and looked at, you know, defending, we've added to public health in the town, yet we're the Board of Health, and we still, to this moment, don't know what those two people referenced in that, do. So I appreciate the effort, and I appreciate, what to do, but the bigger issue is not staffing here. The issue that we're dealing with and are being held accountable isn't staffing, and it's really not financial. I think it goes to KG's point. It's a management issue. It's a management issue, and what does management want to do? How do they want to do it? And more importantly, who do they want to manage that? And I think the public needs to be concerned about that a little bit. Because to KG's point, if something goes wrong, it's not back on this board. I mean, ultimately it is, but I mean, it's not, so. And let's pray to God that nothing does go wrong, but, how can this board ask as many times as we've asked, politely, professionally, documented, to say, hey, what do these people do? What can we do to in value enhance their positions within the town? And more importantly, what can they do to enhance this board? And we still don't know. So I wouldn't go to that meeting saying, hey, we're disappointed, we're upset we didn't get a budget person. I would go to that meeting saying, okay, it didn't work out. What can we do to affect the public health better in the town of Ashland, knowing our limited resources? The past is the past, you can't change it. We know we're not adding staff this year. But how do we work as a more proactive board
And
is
plus
the
also,
question I would
I
have.
mean, you've been on the board for a while, unfortunately not
Yes.
gonna be here
unfortunately.
next year, but we need to know, sitting here, is
Right.
what did we do wrong? Like, what did we miss? Because we spent a lot of time, we put a lot of information together, and that's what's bothering me, is that I just wanna hear it. I wanna have a conversation, a healthy conversation, and say, in the future, whatever we want, whether it's a new vehicle or personnel or whatever the case may be, where do we lack? What did we do wrong? Because this is the third year the board has done it and has not received what they've asked for.
And didn't you guys find it, when I sent my email response back to the manager, and then I got the email from FinCom, I'm like, what? Did I mess this up? Because I referenced the email that we originally received from FinCom back before Thanksgiving, saying, hey, are you gonna be ready to make your presentation in February for your added position? So I attached that email and said, hey, look below. And as soon as I sent that email, I got another email, are you gonna be ready for Tuesday night to make your presentation? So there's definitely a breakdown in communication
I
somewhere.
don't think I got that email from FinCom. Maybe it's been a while, so I don't remember, but I don't know, was it just
between
you?
John and Adam.
Okay, I was gonna say it was,
But no, but
okay.
I attached it,
But
I attached
it was
it.
copied
Okay.
to
I
us.
copied
Okay,
it too.
yeah, I
And I can
apologize.
send it again. I
That's-
can send it again. But even that same night, we get a message from Adam going, are you gonna be ready for Tuesday? I'm like, what?
Right.
So,
And exactly
The
that, I
right
mean,
hand's not talking to the
sometimes-
left
yeah.
hand, multiple different things, so.
And I don't, just to your point, I don't know that it's specifically anything we did wrong, because I don't think we could make a better case, maybe as far as Lisa, the HR manager, maybe we could, make a better story, like you had said, John, with all of those different points. But if they know that for years, that the board thinks that, that Mark has more work than he can handle by himself, and they haven't seen it fit to appropriate money, I think that's really what the question is. I think we've already proven a need, for at least some additional help, yet they've appropriated zero.
No,
So why is that?
that's what I was
think
gonna say,
that's
do you
the
have an
question,
opinion?
right?
Did you have opinion on that? I mean,
I have no idea.
And,
But, if it's not in the budget, it's not in the budget. I don't know how you justify,
Michael addressed it.
raising a budget. You know way more
Right,
about
yeah, I
that
don't know if we're
since,
gonna talk
Yeah.
being a board of
I'll-
selectmen.
I'll say it, though, I think this board is held accountable for sins of prior boards, though, too, a little bit still, too.
I hope not. I mean,
Oh, isn't it obvious?
I
Not
think
that
better
I,
about
not that
people
I
that they
ever
wouldn't
engage in
judge
a
us
battle
for.
on Facebook, but some of the stuff that I see posted by some influential people in this town on Facebook always starts out, well, the board had its problems in the past. Well, yeah, there's, other boards have had problems in the past, too. I don't think this board has anything but to be proud of, is the way we reacted. If people don't like our decisions, okay, that's fine, but we've conducted ourselves in a much more professional and proactive manner. We've got goals, we've got objectives, there's no yelling and arguing, and, you can't, like I was saying
That's
about this, the budget conversation, okay, it didn't work out, fine, we'll move on, we'll learn from it. It's much like this board has moved on and learned from some of the ugliness of years gone by, but, I hope we're not being
and
held
if-
accountable for
Well,
that.
that would be a shame.
That would be
If
dire shame.
the town got penalized because of the action of a few board
I
members.
hope that's not,
Yeah.
I don't.
But you've
think
seen the
that's case.
Facebook posts.
I honestly, no, I have not.
Okay.
And honestly, I'm
I hope
probably
you
not,
never do.
I was gonna say, I'm probably not either friends with those people, or I don't, yeah.
I hope you never
Um,
do.
But, I mean, if the board wants to do it, collectively, if not, we could always do two people to meet with management, and
No,
I
think
wanna
it'd be
sit
great
down
to-
as a board
I would
member
love
with
to- I don't
management.
even have to
Okay.
say anything, I would just love to hear.
Okay.
I, as a
what-
taxpayer, would love to hear.
Yeah.
So
You know.
could anybody do a Wednesday and do? like
I
a-
can,
Okay.
Oh,
Do
I'll make
Wednesday.
it.
Mark,
I'll
can you-
make it.
I can make it early.
Okay, like if we do it like at 6 o'clock, I have,
Yeah, I should be here.
okay, we
You're
could-
working, so,
Well,
right?
for the record, I'll probably take an hour
Right,
personal
right,
time so I can come to the
right,
meeting,
okay.
because I don't want to mix and match, but, which I have no problem doing, I'm passionate about this, so,
Well, just because you and I come for traffic, can we make it like 6:15? To just get, if we get here a little bit earlier, because I would never wanna, keep people waiting because I'm stuck on, getting off the pike or something like that.
yeah, I wouldn't think it would be more than,
Half hour?
yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah, I'm good.
Which Wednesdays?
Do you wanna check,
Other than
you wanna
March
check with
20th, I'm good.
management and see what works for them? I mean, I don't wanna assume that we'll do it next week or anything, but
Mhm.
whenever,
okay.
Yeah,
and then just let us
All
know.
right, yeah, how about I'll check the schedule and I'll send it through Mark
Sure.
and
Yeah,
Laura, and then
March
we'll,
20th is the other one I can't do. Other than that, I'm good.
okay. All right, awesome, thank you.
You're
Good,
welcome.
good. Nice
Thank you
job.
for bringing it up.
You're welcome.
Oh, very nice.
27th is no good if it's a clear day, clear night.
March 27th
What
or
do we have
February?
just-
February 27th. I have
Fill
to take the students for the observatory, so if it's
Oh, really?
clear, I can't be here.
What are you looking at?
Clear.
Whatever shows up
Whatever
on the
shows
sky.
up. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. And that's
So,
February 27th.
That's
so-
right.
So that's
That's a Wednesday.
next Wednesday, right?
If it's not going to happen, that's fine. If it's a cloudy night, that's fine with me. I'm going to
Oh,
come.
you'll cancel it if it's cloudy night?
You know, I can't go there and show the telescope and look at this cloud. Or they could see it otherwise.
Well, I'll probably try to shoot for April 3rd, if there is a selectmen's,
fine.
meeting.
April 3rd?
I mean, March, excuse me, the 6th.
You have to beat the iron when it's
No, I'm
hot.
sorry, I had them to myself. All right, I'll circle back with the board.
They will sleep.
You're thinking March?
March 6th.
I was gonna say, because
March
next
6th?
week he can't do, so, yeah.
Okay.
Does it make sense to even potentially do it before one of our meetings? Is that way we're all here, we just have to be here an hour
Selectmen
earlier?
meeting
I
is a
don't
good
know if
idea
that
because-
works for everybody,
Yeah, I mean, what, do
or
it
is that
like
too long, is that too long?
6:30 at our meeting, yeah.
I mean, that way I mean, we don't have to, so we can always be here a little bit earlier and,
The first
But they have,
Tuesday?
March
they
5th.
don't work that day.
That's a
okay.
PBR
Staff.
meeting. That's what I was
Got it.
thinking.
They have to make it especially for us.
Well, to Ron's point, we could either do it before our meeting on the 5th or before their meeting on the 6th, whichever
Okay.
works best for,
Yeah, if that's
Everybody else.
easy for them.
We certainly don't want to turn it into
Yeah.
a burden, right? All right, item number 4, discuss the creation of a tobacco/marijuana task force. What is being done in the schools for addicted students? Just want to let you guys know, and I'll forward it to you. I meant to forward it to you today, and today got away from me. Superintendent in schools and the mayor of Framingham, I don't know if anybody saw that they have a big problem in vaping with that. They've seen some of our work that we're doing. I actually sent the program that we did over at Mass Bay, sent it over to the Framingham superintendent to see it. Big problem, I guess they're saying, in Framingham, so it's nice that two towns can work together and they can see what we're doing, that they want to partner on it, but Mark, do you have any updates on what's going on in the school?
I asked the schools last week, I'm sure they will get back to me. The superintendent did. He said he's gonna have the principals of the schools get back to me on their policies and objectives related to, not task force per se, but how they handle addiction, might it be tobacco or other addictions.
Okay. So what are you guys thinking for a task force?
KJ, are you still on the school wellness committee?
I'm only as a visitor and not on the committee. Because officially I cannot participate in the discussion.
I just didn't, yeah.
Listen
When do
to
they
them.
meet, do you know?
I think they meet on some Monday, that's why I was trying to
Oh,
open
okay.
that, look
No,
at
I
it.
just didn't know if they had discussed it. I'll be going Tuesday night to Monday night to the decisions at a return meeting as a, guest, not a board member, just to attend, so I know they have it on the agenda as well, so.
It's very complicated at that level, at that age, to try and understand the right way. Obviously, education is crucial, but effective discipline is difficult, back.
February 25th, they're meeting, sorry,
That's okay.
at 5 p.m.
That's Monday.
It was canceled because of the snow,
Right.
previous one, so this is fine.
February 25th?
Yeah, they're meeting on February
It's
25th.
unusual.
It's a Sunday, right?
No, no,
Monday, the
it's a Monday.
25th.
Tuesday probably.
Oh, Tuesday.
They are meeting on a Monday.
That's the decisions meeting too.
Oh, I see, his group's meeting
I remember,
That's a Monday,
in my day, we had things like truant officers if you didn't
It's a
go to
Monday.
school, and we had detention if you did something bad in school, and we had, if you got caught smoking, you had to sit back and watch the video of somebody's lungs and being black and all that kind of stuff. Does that type of discipline work in today's world? Probably not, but
We had
You
a
know,
smoking pit in my school.
it's really, it's kind of very, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to kind of negotiate, because clearly they need to have something has to happen. But what do you do that's effective, that's gonna make a difference, It's hard to say. It's a real challenge.
Well, you are around, as I try to speak English here, you're around young adults every day.
Yeah.
Do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, in the environment, in the college, students are treated as adults. So they're not, and so there's a little bit of a different vibe, so they're not sneaking around, They know they're allowed to do it, kind of, they're not allowed to do it in the building, of course, and I suspect it's happened. I've never seen it, but certainly when they go outside, instead, I think the biggest crime that we have to deal with is that instead of going to the designated smoking areas on campus, they do it at every doorway and stuff like that, and, that we need to enforce and stuff, but it's not as rampant a problem, and I think that from a perception perspective, right, if you're in college, you're an adult,
No, yeah.
and that's not the market, the target market
Right.
of who we're trying to prevent, it's already
No, but the
too
only
late.
reason I ask is
Yeah.
because, typically, I'm painting with a broad brush, but
Yeah.
your students are what, 18, 19, 20?
Well, it's oddly enough, you would think that
Okay.
that is the case. And there is a significant demographic in that range, but in the community college system, it's different.
Right.
You'd be more likely to see the younger demographic in the four-year colleges. The
Okay.
community college, I think at one point, the last time I saw it, the average age of a Mass-based student was 27.6 or something
Oh,
like that.
okay, wow, I'm surprised, okay.
You know, because you have the.
So that is
the-
totally different.
You have the displaced homemaker, as it used to be called, then there's the back to, you know, change of career person, and,
Working community.
huh?
Working community is the
Yeah.
one that usually
Yeah.
takes.
So there's
Interesting.
so many different groups that make up the age demographic, that it skews the average age.
It's interesting.
Just being parents, a parent of, you know, 18, 19, 20-year-old kids and talking to their friends and, you know, it's easy. It's easy to do. It's not, you don't have the same, you know, I've never smoked a cigarette, and, because my parents were smokers and I never liked the smell of cigarettes. But I've been around, you know, thousands of people who, you know, will share their first experience with a cigarette. And it was 99.9% of them say it was an awful experience. That's not the experience you get with the vaping.
Mhm.
It's usually not the experience that you get with the marijuana though either, so. I think it's just the ease and the pleasant, you know, people like the smell, they like the taste of it. I think that makes it a little bit more, easy to, for people to enjoy. And then there's that whole thing that we heard when we went through all this, people trying to get away with it in school. You know, we were all kids once, we tried to get away
Sure.
with stuff at school, and it was a lot of fun, and, you know, your friends liked you more if you got away with it, and, you know, so, I mean, I don't know, so I think you need schools, I think you need, you know, we had talked about, when we just talked about doing it as marijuana, you know, the police chief was very excited about getting his officers involved, I think you do schools. But I think we do it, you know, you have to sell it as education. It's
Yeah.
all education, it's
Sure.
all positive, it's all, you know. I mean, I've told the story ad nauseum. You know, why do I recycle? Because my kids taught me how to recycle, you know, and they learned it through the schools.
When we had the public forum here a few weeks ago, when we were going through the tobacco stuff, for me, the most impactful testimonies were the kids.
Mhm.
You know, those really, I think, if real ground is gonna be broken in the schools, the students have to be at
Mhm.
the center of it. Because an adult is an authority figure, and that's who they're rebelling against.
Mhm.
If
I
it's
agree.
their own peers, it's a whole different story. They've gotta believe that it's cool not to do it. How did
I would
that
almost say
happen?
that you,
I don't know.
the kids run it and the adults attend it.
Absolutely.
Yep, I would agree with you 100%. Or the young adults, I don't wanna call them kids, the young
Yeah.
adults, yeah.
Well, with that said, I mean, that's why I was asking about the wellness committee, because I'm curious what the school wellness committee is doing, as well.
Well, you go to those meetings every once in a while.
No, I
No?
don't go to the wellness committee. I go to decisions at every meeting.
I think, based on looking at the alcohol best practices, it looks like we did basically the best we could do with limiting access, like Chris had eloquently stated during our tobacco measures, because, you know, doing that, they say, really is the only effective way, for alcohol. So it's probably the only effective way for smoking as well, just to, you know, limit people's access to getting it, even though it's a double-edged sword, because it limits, you know, a legal substance for adults, but, you know, we're trying to keep it out of kids' hands, so it's a tough line.
I didn't attend the alcohol
Yeah.
training this year because I've attended, and I'm sure you as a selectman. We
Yeah.
have two different trainings, one for the
Mm.
establishments and one for the I'll call it law enforcement, but to teach them, because every year people change how to make the fake IDs, and they have these new ways of doing it.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things they taught as well this year. It's the same thing, that somebody out there is, you know, making these fake IDs for these, you know, younger adults,
Yeah.
you know, and have to keep up with it, you know, it's a
Yeah.
lot, it's a lot.
It's a big part of the tips training
Mhm.
is
Yeah.
detecting fake IDs.
Yeah.
All right, so who wants to grab the bull by the horns here? Because I think first you have to decide who's going to do the heavy lifting, and then we go from there.
Well, would we want to, would we want to actually talk about what we want for the committee? Is that what you're thinking? Is that what you're saying? Or is that, like, do we want?
Well, you know, I agree with Chris. I think eventually you let the young adults take the lead on this, but I think this board has agreed that we wanted to make it a priority to get it up and running, so I think somebody from this board needs to, you know, say, get it up and we'll get it, you know, organize a meeting. I mean, I remember in years past, the planning board kind of wanted to be involved. Like I said, police wanted to be involved. I think you want to get retailers involved. I think that was a key motivation.
Mhm.
And then you want to get the, you know, the kids in the schools involved, and so, I'm always happy to throw my hat in the ring, but, I mean, if somebody else wants to throw their hat in, I mean, I think we just organize something at first, yeah. Chris?
Unfortunately, my schedule over the next few months is just
Tight?
really tight. It's, you know,
Well, I mean, I don't mind
I can easily
helping
jump
with
in,
it.
but-
I mean,
I
Do
don't
we
mind
do it
either.
together?
I mean, I can
Sure.
talk to Amy, and I think she'd be a good, you know, and the DEAT people should be a good resource. I
Mhm.
mean, they're probably working on exactly the same things, so
Right.
we probably don't have to really reinvent the wheel. We can maybe go to them and ask them if there's any way we can be, you know, an adjunctive, you know, body to what they're doing, or any.
I mean, their,
Greg, do you know what, like,
their email would, you know,
Well-
get everybody involved, yeah.
Is-
I'm sorry.
What do you think,
all right,
Mark?
I was gonna suggest that, that's a great suggestion, rather, is what I was gonna note.
Mhm.
I mean,
what, just
I would
suggest
at
what,
least,
Mark, I missed that, I'm sorry.
Work
well,
with DAE decisions at every turn as it relates to what they're doing, so we're not replicating in any way. I'd suggest that we coordinate with them.
yeah.
The school wellness committee, I'm not on their mailing list. I don't know if their actions are actually close to what decisions at every turn is doing. That's something that hopefully the principals, when they get back to me on what they're doing for addiction, they'll let me know if there's a certain group handling it. But I would think that the wellness, KG, you might be able to
Yeah,
answer that question.
last day when I was attending, I think there was some statistics mentioned by them, and then they wanted to address it at this point, somewhere here on the board, so that the community knows about it, what they're doing. I said, come on down to the Board of Health, I'm sure we will let you speak up here on the podium. So we could still offer that to Paul, who's the vice principal, who's heading the wellness committee. Could get him over here, maybe. That's one way. This time, they're just working on the nutrition. I just sent you their agenda items to all of us, so they're working on nutrition values and things like that, so that may be off this topic.
Well, you said you're gonna go to the meeting on Monday, right?
Yeah.
So I'll make a
Well,
motion that we,
I'll go with you.
that Ron and Diane start the conversation, well, with decisions at every turn.
As long as they're game for that, I will second that.
Decision every turn meeting or wellness
Yeah.
committee?
Can you make
Well,
a
with-
their meetings are at a quirky time,
It's 5:30.
5:30?
But on a Monday
On
or
a Monday.
Tuesday?
Monday.
That's right. I
Usually
can-
Tuesday, but because they had to cancel last Tuesday's meeting due to the snow,
Yep.
they
On
postponed it
Monday.
to a Monday, but that's very unusual for them to meet on
5:30
Monday.
to
So I can, I'll just schedule myself
high
out a little
Middle
early
school.
Middle school. Middle
at the
school.
middle school.
Middle school library.
Okay,
That's that.
yeah.
And I also think it might be, like, if, when we go there, I think maybe we could come back at the next meeting with, like, maybe a plan. You know, like maybe suggestive members
We'll
or,
hold two meetings in the
Okay.
library?
what'd you say?
They're having the wellness committee in the same day, same place.
Hmm.
They are?
Same time?
Yeah, that's the one I sent you just now, 25th February.
Wow.
I sent you their agenda.
I guess they are combining
healthy
their
meeting.
efforts.
It's a healthy meeting, yeah.
That's good.
That light's flickering on and off, right? It's not, I'm not having a stroke.
No, you're not. No, you're not. So it's,
It is.
All right, so I'm hearing
Excuse me,
Diane
the
and,
middle school, your meeting is in the activity room.
Oh,
I just
yes,
opened it, I'm like,
all right.
activity room,
So that's.
so we'll be down the
wellness.
hallway.
All right.
yeah. And you'll be in the library, okay.
Okay.
All right, well, that's a
So
good
it's-
start.
Monday, the 25th, right? Okay, 5:30?
Middle school library.
Okay.
All right, any further discussion on that topic? Good job on that. All right, item number 5, possible Narcan, Ashland Business Association. Over the weekend, I reached out to Mike Kane from the Ashland Business Association and let Mike know that we have resources available within Town Hall. I also told him that, you know, in the project that I'm working outside of Ashland Town Hall with Blue Cross and Blue Shield, we also have access to it. Cynthia Whitty then reached out to me yesterday, and she did an email blast to all of the business association, letting them know that we have opportunities. She's gonna throw something at me, but I gave Laura's contact information out, that if any ABA member or anybody watching this wants to get in contact and, you know, learn more about it, to contact Laura, you know, as a direct contact.
Awesome.
So, you know, kudos to the ABA for, you know, sending that out and letting it be known that we're there. And did you get any feedback or anything like that? I know it was just yesterday that they did it, but yeah, I think that's big and important.
And I will compliment both Kelly Joseph from Framingham and Ed Berman, our police sergeant. They both have offered to help with any training. Mass Bay, we reached out to Vincent Christopher.
Vinny O'Connell, yeah.
Vinny O'Connell, thank you. And he, in turn, Ed Berman, more or less said, I can help out with that, because I think he wants to train the campus police.
Yep.
So that would be more police officer to police officers. So that would be a good
That'd be perfect.
opportunity. So we're working on that as we
Okay.
speak.
Any other topics on that? So ideally, it would be you, Sergeant Berman, just in case there's any ABA members watching.
Yeah, Nancy can train.
Nancy, okay.
She just thought with the police officers, the campus police officers, it might be best Ed Berman could come into place.
Makes perfect sense.
And
yeah.
Kelly Joseph is on standby as
Yeah.
well. It's part of her responsibility. She's the coordinator of the Narcan program that we have for the 4 towns.
I mean, and I don't wanna overstate the obvious,
Excuse me.
Mark, but it might be good because you've gone through the training, you've seen it on different forums. You're an ABA member and you open up that email and go, okay, you know, why would I wanna do this? Why don't you explain for
Well,
like a minute, you know,
the
why
first thing
they'd
is-
wanna do it?
What kind of time do I have? And it only takes about 15 minutes. And the more important part is that it's easy to do, but there's a few steps you would need to know. So why? You could save a life. I mean, that ultimately, that's what it comes down to.
You know, it just kind of occurred to me what I'd really love to see, because we have at our disposal a professional film crew. I would love to see a high-quality YouTube video made of the process. Not that watching it would automatically make you a trained person, but if we made that YouTube video available to the public,
That's a great idea.
and they had the ability to watch it, and we promoted it was there, you know, there are just people in the real world that are never gonna come to a formal session
Right.
that are in a position where they might have the opportunity to save a life. And that video might save a life. So let's,
That's a huge,
It might help with the skepticism as well
Yeah.
about getting it,
Yeah.
but it's not,
Yep.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
not.
Miles, you getting all this? Yeah, so, all right, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. I will be talking to Mrs. Chisholm a lot in the next couple days about a couple different things, so I will run it by her
Okay.
and see if we can't get something like that done. I think that's a
Beautiful.
great idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Okay. Any further discussions? I like how you said, more importantly, it's just gonna save a life. And the stigma piece, I think, is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't wanna go and do it, but
Yeah.
you'll watch it anonymously.
Yeah,
you
for
know.
sure.
Yeah, that's a great point. That is a great point. All right.
And we'll, once it's produced, we'll give it to everybody. We'll
Sure.
Send it to everybody, every town that we can think of, and say,
Link it
yes,
to our website
this
too.
is there, we'll put it on our website.
Yeah, you couldn't give it to enough people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great idea. And you said, you know, what do you think, it'd be a 15-minute video, you think?
Oh, yeah, easily, because they made it so much easier to use the push spray for the nasal spray versus the previous way where you had
Miles
a
loves being in
break
the
pot.
editing room, he'll cut it down.
Yeah, no, it's a 10-minute video the most. CPR is the part that, and knowing to call right away 911. Those are the 2 items that would take a little longer, and most of that would be to advise someone to know their CPR.
Good.
But more importantly, it's so easy, it's a nasal spray. Just wait 3 minutes, you get 2 kits in there and do it again. It's that easy. But more importantly, never forget to call 911. That's like critical in any type of CPR, stop the bleed,
Yep.
call 911. That's stroke education, which I've done before. Call 911. That's one of the most important things to do immediately. Then start the process within and the phone can still be on while you're doing the process. Put it on speakerphone, and
Yeah.
your dispatchers will definitely walk you through it. So that's another critical step. And there's no legal repercussions from doing this. You know, if you call 911, no one's getting arrested. That's very critical that people know that.
All right, item 6, review historical cancer registry reports. What an unpleasant
So,
topic,
Yeah, well, we have a bunch of them, and through the years, they do 4-year spans, so the board will see we have 2005 to 9, 6 to 10, and then 8 to 12 actually was in between all that, and then the 11 to 15. And when you look through it, you know, you could look at the very bottom number to see as a whole, all types, all sites. 2011 to 15 has the lowest all sites, all types, but then you can look at the standard incidence ratio, which gives you if we're over the state average or below the state average. With cancer numbers, sometimes too, if the number's below 5, it's not statistically available. That's why they write not available. So sometimes the comparison's hard for when you're comparing a group in a smaller town than say if it was Boston, a larger city, they would have more probably cancer information than, not just the information, but the numbers would be higher. But they do their best to give you an idea. The most recent one is the one that came in a couple weeks ago, and that's involved, that's the 2011 to 15. They do 4-year cycles and they average it. And that's the way they've been doing it for a few years now, so.
I mean, none of these numbers are good, but something,
Well,
the
if
colon
you
and
see
the
anything
prostate
over-
jump,
yeah.
jumps off the page at me.
Well, exactly. If you see anything over 100,
Next week.
in respect to the state, in respect to the state. So, you know, some of these, the medical world is helping. Other areas we can help. We've had sun protection programs here in the past. That helps with skin cancer, melanoma. Other areas, like multiple melanomas, again, that could be from being aware of skin cancer, skin sunburn protection, those type of things. Some of these are more going to see your doctor on a regular checkup. Colonoscopies are very important.
I think that having these numbers is interesting. Putting them out in the public without context is dangerous.
Oh, very much so.
Because I think that these numbers on their own mean so much less without having a real understanding of the demographic.
Yeah, you took the words out of my
Yeah.
mouth. Your demographics may be different in Ashland, they
Yeah.
could be one town over,
Right.
you know, perfectly said. Couldn't word it better. And they're not to panic
And I
or
think
scare.
stating that is important for anybody that's watching at home, that's gonna go and
Yeah.
look at the public record and see these numbers. Please, don't just look at those numbers and just say, oh, Ashland's a dangerous place. Get some information, call the Board of Health if you don't know how to find that information, and we'll help you out. Because it's important that if you're looking at it, you really know what you're looking at.
Well, and we always refer them to their medical doctors.
Sure.
That's where they should be going.
Mhm.
To make sure they're following up
Yeah.
on whatever the norm is for various tests and so forth.
Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 7, discuss the Eversource gas line project. And okay, G, you had a couple concerns, but maybe Mark can update us a little bit about what's
Open
going
it up,
on.
and he actually helped out one of our residents earlier today who came in with some questions on it, which brought to light that people may not know, but this is a multi-year process. You'll see it in that handout, like it shows the different years. And that red line through it's the Hopkinton-Ashland border. And if you didn't recognize that, you would think they already started. So I have to thank Mr. DeSoni, who came in earlier asking questions, because it helps me with my presentation. So thank you, Mark. So you'll see they've already planned in Hopkinton, not in Ashland yet. But their team of people came to see the tech review group. That's planning, fire, police, DPW. They were here February 5th, right in this room. And there was 3 people from Eversource, and they went over what they've been going through since 2000. Let's see, they said they started this old project back with NEPA, and about a year or 2 ago, the Army Corps of Engineers as well, with wetlands. And most of this project, another point that I'm glad, Mark, you and I were discussing, is this is going to not be on our roads. Their plan is to keep it right where the easement's located. It comes in on the back side of West Union Street, the south side, goes behind those homes, crosses over Olive Street, and then goes down back through the State Park, Ashland State Park, and heads over towards Chestnut Place, which are apartments, crosses over there and jumps over, and it's going to end at Cedar Street. And that it picks up a line that's already in better shape on Cedar Street. That's why it's stopping at Cedar Street. Now, some of the concerns that were brought to them was, one, having weekly meetings with all their people on site, because things can happen with road crossings especially, and making sure neighbors are aware of this. They may hear noise in the woods. What's that noise? Stormwater pollution was another one discussed, and how they're going to handle, and KJ, I'll leave that for you. Hours of operation was discussed. You know, they work in weekdays only, and that's what they said, 7:30 to 4:30. Who will be the oversight contractor? And the company's name is TRC. Our end of things, I said to the staff that were here, is one, we have an anti-idling regulation, so does in the state, and that they are to respect that, you know, their engines, diesels especially, they sometimes forget to shut them off at lunchtime, overheat them, overrun them in the morning when they start them up. So we talked about that. Mud, dust from their excavations, controlling that, as well as noise. You know, if it's excessive noise, or they have a machine that's not muffled properly. So those are some of the items I brought up. But, and I was so glad to hear the committee say the most important part is when they get ready, we'll be in this room again, meeting with them on a weekly basis to make sure things are following through. I didn't go too far with stormwater.
Yeah,
but
the other thing is that they're leaving the old pipe right there.
yes,
So that's a big concern for
Right next
stormwater
to it, on
management.
top of it? What-
They're not gonna remove it, they're gonna just keep it there.
No,
they
but
cap
the-
it.
But the new pipe is going on top of it,
No,
beside
side
it?
of
on the
it.
side of it, I guess.
I'm sorry,
So-
go ahead, KG.
New pipe is larger than
Right.
the older one. The concern that
Twice
the
the size,
the
right.
Concom has is that if the pipe leaks water, and it may add water to some water resources, additional water through the pipe, it will channel water through it. And for us, if it's contamination, it'll probably add it to the existing groundwater system or the surface
Who
water
made that
system, their health concern comes in, so we
Well,
need to make sure.
I'm sure it's a
John was
financial
just
one.
asking who made it, and their reasoning was, well, the whole reason they're doing this is because of the demand. There's a higher demand with all the development in this area, and they can't meet that demand on the coldest days and so forth. They need a bigger pipe to get more gas through it. So I was curious, I thought they were gonna replace it, but the pipe they leave in place, it's a couple reasons. One is the utilities are being required to consider redundancy in case, unfortunately, it's a crazy world we live in. If a man-made catastrophe happened, they have a secondary. But cost, I'm sure, is part of it, and they are planning to cap it off every so many feet. So that the pipe itself, they said, is in great shape. They really don't need to replace it. They need the extra capacity right now.
Now, did they tell you at Concom that they were gonna?
I did not, I was not there because it happened in my absence, but I have, listened to the tape and everything, and they have this thick booklet they've given. I'm reading through that. I'm doing my PhD again on that one.
I don't know, I kinda have mixed emotions on it. I mean, I can understand leaving it,
Yeah.
and so you have a backup plan if you need one, but the other part, to your point, is the contamination. I mean,
Sure.
talk to me 10 years from now, after that pipe
The-
hasn't been used, what's in there?
We don't
Oh,
know.
it's gonna
done.
be
If
empty.
you've ever had your basement flooded because a rodent climbed in a storm drain or something like that, like, you know, some of us have had, yeah, that's gotta be a concern.
Right,
so.
so these are the questions that the Concom has already asked. In fact, they were suggesting that the Board of Health should get involved in it. I said, I'll bring it up to board members. to
That's
see what they-
Concom's biggest concern is the pipe being left.
No, that's, the other thing is they don't want them to be in the resource areas, because when they put it in originally, the wetland acts were not there at the times. Now they're all active, so there is more wetland and marsh and everything is there, so they want us to
So
take
these
it.
meetings you have are
They're trying to
tech
see whether
review
they can
meetings?
take the
Yeah,
alternate
tech
route.
review. Conservation's at tech review.
They have an alternate review, alternate route also on the plan, so.
So who's ultimately permitting this project? Planning?
Through planning, but conservation has a say in the matter. The Board of Health has a say in any environmental concerns that may come about from the project. So there's a variety of boards,
No, but
town
ultimately,
management.
there's one
I
board
mean, we
issuing
need to have
permits.
public safety and, that's the thing, we don't want to have any sudden explosion happening there and
Yeah,
then,
exactly.
fire.
So the State Department of Public Utilities is involved with this as well.
Right. We should also be concerned with the safety issue too. from
Yes,
our side.
definitely.
We don't want to have
We don't.
what happened in Lawrence and Andover.
That got brought up at tech review.
It did,
Yeah.
and?
They said, no, this should not happen.
Well, that shouldn't
It
happen
should
either.
not happen, but.
But they
supposed to happen
did
either.
say though, they can't.
We all know it should not happen, but
They
how
can't
are they going to
guarantee.
prevent
Well,
it, protect
well,
You
it,
got, but they,
safeguard it? That's what's
yeah,
important.
they can't guarantee, they
Nobody
did say,
guarantees.
it's
One way to
unfortunate.
one way to guarantee is to empty the entire pipe. No gas, so nothing could explode.
That's right, but then people
And
that
then-
want gas might be very upset that are customers right now. It's,
When is Concom meeting again?
We're meeting again on Monday, the 25th. That's
This
when-
coming Monday?
Yeah,
Monday's a busy
Busy,
day.
busy, busy.
Yeah, busy day.
at 7 o'clock anyway, so.
I'll make the suggestion that KG go back to them and say, is there any interest in multiple boards getting together and having a meeting? I don't know that we have to get, 20 people in a room, but, can we, if there truly are concerns about it from Concom and there's concerns about it from planning and public safety, then it might be good to have a meeting, a half hour, 20-minute meeting to, what are the concerns, or are they valid? And if
Sure.
we should plot a course
We could-
versus,
Yeah,
everybody working individually, I think
Yeah.
it would be good.
we'll do that.
So you'll go back to them?
I'll go back.
And then
to
you'll
them.
let us know on Monday or
Yeah,
Tuesday?
I will.
Anybody else have any concerns about it? Anybody in a butter? You're,
This may almost sound crazy,
Yeah.
but, so I see it's a 3.71 mile stretch, and it's gonna be 12-inch pipe at the end. So is that 12-inch pipe at either end of that stretch going to a 12-inch source?
yes.
Okay.
I asked that question.
And it sounds
why
like a
you ending
stupid
it?
question,
Yeah.
but I've seen stupid things happen, you know?
Doesn't connect at the end.
You know what I'm saying?
That was one of my questions. I said, why are you ending on Cedar Street? They said, because we already have the 12-inch from that point on.
Uh-huh.
So that's why,
Okay.
I asked the same question at
Is
tech
Hopkinton
review.
done, or is it they're finishing it?
They're in the process of getting it started, I believe, but, so they're gonna be behind, I think, a year or so.
So what's the timeline on this? When,
Well,
when
they
do we
show,
first
they
see?
show the timeline on this, one of these maps. Oh, okay, Mark brought it in. I knew I saw it somewhere. So they show 2019 in Hopkinton, 2020, 2021 in Ashland. So I guess they're planning to start in Hopkinton, but not finish. It's this construct right here. You got it, John. And there's your timeline to 2023.
Mark, who
Yes.
makes the determination if the preferred route or the alternative route is followed, and how does that decision come about?
Well,
Good question.
that was discussed, and that will be conservation especially, because they're concerned about the wetlands that they cross.
So this isn't set in stone yet?
No, in fact,
I guess-
they may have to go through the streets, but that will be obviously more costly and all that, but that's still up for debate, discussion.
There are ways to do the alternate, instead of going through the wetlands with all the equipment, they could drill under, tunnel under through tunneling. method, that's one
That's a
way to
good
do
point.
it. And there may be some concern
Yeah,
about
'cause I
that
don't know the
suddenly coming up,
Do you?
but now,
Yeah.
nowadays, the drilling
But you can't
techniques
talk
are
about
very well done, and the directed drilling can be done.
Yeah, that's a good
Like
point,
They don't just
KJ.
have to, they don't just dig a trench
more.
5 feet deep.
This
That's what they
is
do.
where they have to do it, because when they laid the old pipes, the wetland acts were not there, now there are wetland acts on it. So when they're
That's good.
affected by this, so that they cannot cross with heavy trucks, big trucks, they must have only a small length of it, whatever they can disturb it, so all these things will delay their laying down and cost other things, so the alternate route, they have to weigh in and find out whether that's cost effective.
So, yeah, it seems like it's a lot longer, the alternate, I don't know how much longer it is, but it seems like it
And
is.
then there'll be traffic issues too, because you're gonna have to do road closures.
Yeah.
so.
If the suggestion was to use the roads to do it, because you already have other pipes, utility pipes and other things going underneath, so you may as well. It's easier to maintain that rather than anything else. That's what they suggested.
Yeah, but you probably triple the cost though. Right.
It's more easy to work with. You don't have to come to the Concom again when you want to dig the road.
I don't know, you talk to somebody on Monday morning who's late for work.
Huh?
I don't know if that's easy or not, yeah.
So,
I mean,
you
On a
guys-
project like this, Eversource pays for all of it, right? Pays
Right.
for police detail, pays for,
Yes, that's correct.
All
So you get your next bill, yeah.
Yeah.
well, no, you know what I mean, I understand that part.
It does get trickled down.
I'm not a
Trickle down,
complete
yeah.
fool.
No.
I'm just saying initially, until we pay them back.
So why it always cracks me up that they actually advertise. What other choice do I have? you know?
Right.
All right, and any other concerns from the Concom perspective or anything, JJ?
None that I know.
All right, so you'll report back Monday or
Yeah,
Tuesday of
I
next
will.
week? Okay. All right, item number 8, discuss the Mary Mortensen Public Health Award. We've kind of talked about that the last couple of meetings. Anybody have any thoughts?
I have a thought.
Okay.
I thought that, we can talk about nominations, right?
Hmm?
Okay. Janet Ganache, I believe this is her last session at Earth Day.
Hmm.
And I didn't know if it would be a nice,
She actually
She's a great
has
lady, yeah.
she's,
always been there to help.
right, she's done a
yes.
lot for Earth Day and keeping that going, so I didn't know. I thought it'd be a good idea maybe to recognize her as her last, I think this is her last year, is that correct, Mark?
Mhm.
It would be, they're inseparable, all three of them have been helpful through the years. There's Jean Walker, there's Janet Gamache, and Karen Dan. They've all been very instrumental through 10 years, I'd say, give or take. And obviously, others who have moved on were recognized. We were fortunate to have people that just stayed with us through the years, but people move on too, so. But it may be a consideration for the group or person of the group, and the one person who is leaving this year is Janet, so, you know, but all three have been very instrumental over the years.
Mhm. Great group, yeah. Any other thoughts?
So you had made suggestions at the previous meetings, so
Mhm.
they're on there. Oh, good.
Do you want to make that in the form of a nomination?
Sure, and a motion?
Sure.
I make a motion that we nominate Janet Ganache for the 2019 Mary Mortensen Public Health Award.
Is there a
Don't leave me
second?
hanging.
Yeah,
Second.
I'll second it, sure.
All right, second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
All right, so when do we want to do it? When we originally set it up, we were going to do it the second Tuesday in March, or second meeting in March, which will give us enough time. Laura and I were running around like with our heads chopped off last year, right?
Today's Mary's birthday, yes.
Yep.
So March 19th?
March 19th? Okay. Do the same thing we did last year? Okay. Okay. You'll get it out to everybody, Mark, that it's gonna happen, and
Yeah, I'll let the folks know from Green Up. Janet may know right now, she's watching.
If she's not.
Surprise, no surprise, yes. All right, good, nice job. All right, so March 19th, we'll do that. Okay, good. And we'll get the plaque from the same place we did last year. We'll just do it the same way? Okay, good. All right, item number 9, Health Agents Report.
Okay, I guess we can start with the budget.
Just the egg timer.
The present budget, we should be at about 64%, and we are. Some of our expenses, you would start with, the general expenses are within order, within correct order for the expenses of the positions. Contracted services, that's the landfill. That, I mentioned prior times, was over budgeted because we didn't know what we were gonna be spending, but we will have some funding needs for testing people's water in their homes that are, 2 of those homes are close to the landfill and they use their wells for drinking water. Those were tested just a week ago, so those bills should be coming in pretty soon. And then purchase of nursing services, were basically, the funds are running very low. We're at 88.8%, which it has been addressed with management and the finance director.
Addressed as,
And
it will be
and
taken
by
care
email
of? Or-
that, you know, not just where we stand on and why we stand at that level. And I expect that money will be moved from the contracted services line item to that line item. That's usually how they handle that.
Mhm.
Well, it's the budget's a bottom line anyhow, so they technically
Yes,
won't move
yeah.
any money.
Which is nice. They
Just
allow some,
saying.
yeah, no, it's always been very
No,
helpful.
keep the lines clean.
There are, in our revolving funds, there are 3 funds in there that still are not ours. Board of Health donations, that was for an animal control donation of $630. And a hazardous waste revolving fund falls under the DPW. But it can be confusing to a reader who may not know that when they look at our agenda, our budget information. So, just so the board knows. Any questions on that?
Nope, I think we're good. Thank you.
And we're just on the budget, an email was sent when I sent the final goals to the management a couple weeks ago now, and it did mention in bold, we're running out of money in the nursing line item. It was discussed. I had communications with the 2 town managers as well as the finance director, and so they were aware of it. By putting in writing, we would appreciate, if anything, some additional hours for nursing. So that was addressed in, not just with verbal communication, but put in writing. So that's where that one stands. We'll see what happens next year. We'll know at town meeting, or sooner. So. Any questions? Everyone's quiet.
Quiet.
So we are going to add the food inspection additional times, or money to be removed out of the revolving fund, right?
Sorry.
We're going to take the money out of the revolving fund for the food inspection, additional
That's where the
money.
money's coming from right now.
We're going to take more of it because we want to increase the time.
As we
That-
increase time, more money is coming out. Right now, more money is coming out than was in
But
the.
that is under our control, or it's under the management's control?
Well, we do speak with management on that. It's a joint effort. The board can request. I send it to management, explain what the request is. We're talking about the revolving fund, revolving fund for food inspectional program. Just this past week, I asked the finance director for an update on our hardware. She said, go for it, in those words. And so that's coming from that fund. So things like that, permission is asked. But in the hours, I went over that verbally with the town manager. He's aware of it. So those permissions are from the suggestions of the board, and I bring them to management, and that's how we do it.
So what hardware are we buying?
Another computer, the computer that, we have 2, this one and a Surface, Microsoft Surface.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting another Microsoft Surface.
So
And
that's
our-
totally, what sort of expense are you talking about?
Our MIS, the people that handle our information systems, they're gonna go out pricing it for us. They're our best lead to get the best
So
deals.
do we have an estimated amount now, or no?
He hasn't come back to me yet with the estimate. Why, do you know a better estimate somewhere, or?
No, I just
Oh,
go,
no, I just
it's
curious,
just
I'll
there
take
in
it.
Best Buy to buy a computer for my daughter, so I was
Yeah.
looking
Yeah,
at
they,
it. so-
they buy
I
in
was-
volume,
Yeah.
By bulk, yeah.
Hopefully it'll be less.
and off the tape it is.
Literally hundreds of them for the town.
But that's not the food inspectors, that's,
Yeah, that is,
that's the food inspectors as well?
yeah. That came from the grant.
Oh,
It's a
That was
very,
that was a grant we got
Yeah.
from,
7 years, six to 7 years ago,
No.
2013,
Well past its
6 years
oh,
ago.
that's what I'm
yeah,
like.
that was from the grant I got from the MetroWest Regional
Yeah,
Collaborative,
yes,
right, yeah, yeah.
And the governor came here, the
Yeah.
lieutenant governor.
Lieutenant Governor, yeah.
Yeah, we got a grant for, we being the towns of Hopkinton and Medway and Ashland. I don't know if Holliston was involved. I get confused with the nurse grant we got.
So the new computer would be actually the third
It
for
will
the food
be,
inspector?
yeah, and this one will be put to the side. It's too heavy to use out in the field. It's too, you could fall on the floor easily carrying that thing around, so. With the Surface, almost like what you have there, KG, you can flip it over and
I
utilize
have
it.
one.
You have a Surface as well. You have an Apple, you have a I
No,
noticed
no,
that's an Apple.
this is an iPad.
Oh, that's an
Surface
iPad,
is the one
yeah.
I carry to school, this
I
also
see.
carry.
So
when
you're
I
familiar
travel.
with
Yeah,
both.
I am.
Rich guy.
Mark, just a
Yes.
question. So you said that the increased or the additional revenue comes out of this food inspection program? You know, the second line item that's, you know, that says 20,000
Yeah.
so far. What is that max? Is that limitless? So, I
We are
mean, obviously,
maxed-
it's gonna be
It's a
a
good
lot more
question.
than $20,000.
It's a
this
good
year.
question. So at town meeting, we're maxed by the definition of that revolving fund by how it was defined and requested at last year's town meeting. And it used to be 20,000. It was brought up to 30,000 last year. The tobacco is 5,000, still at 5,000, the amount we can expend from that fund. And depending on where we're going with food inspections, that'll get discussed and put into legal language, which is pretty much the same as last year's, by our town attorney. And we'll see where we're at that point, which won't be too far away. It'll be probably the month of March. That we'll get that language together too, Lisa. And obviously discuss it with management to make sure they're satisfied with that.
But what all fees that get in there? The permit fees get into that field, and then any fines that we levy,
Fines.
or the inspection fees that we do, are they all accounted for in this?
Inspection fees go in there, re-inspection, extra re-inspection fees.
Right, all inspections.
The fines, I asked, and that goes into the general fund.
Is there a
it's just a
substantial fine
process.
levied on these?
What's that?
Is there a substantial amount that we,
Well, if we,
Impose?
I'll be talking about this in one of the next agenda items, if we collect the fines that have been sent out for one of our establishments, that's a good chunk of money, over
So,
1,000.
if you can bring us the breakdown of it, the permit fees, total inspection fees that we have collected over the year, as well as this fines that
Yeah,
levied
the
on?
fines and the,
Fine is a state law, though, we can't change
yeah.
that.
It's fine,
Yeah,
but
no,
it's
yeah.
the amount that gets in the general fund, so
It
if
should
we
be
can
around-
access it. So these are the ways that we can show them where the revenues are coming for the town, whether it's going to the
Right.
revolving fund or the general fund. And then part
most,
of, barter or fight for the budget.
for the complement to most of our food establishments, there's not many fines issued.
Correct.
So I would say this year, because we had a major fine issued, we may have around 1,500, but in a normal year, we're not seeing more than 300 to 500 in fines, and that's a compliment to our food establishments who pay attention to what's required.
Right, if you give all those breakdowns, we can make a story out of it and let them know.
Yeah. But the
If
food,
less fines mean that we're doing a good job.
yes, I
So that-
hope it would
That should be
continue that
credited
way.
with more money for the budget.
Yeah, but they are an effective way to change behavior or actions related to our food facilities if need be. And I would say re-inspections, it's about the same amount, but the majority of the funding, that's what I was just trying to say, is mostly from our fees that we charge for the permits. and we
Yeah,
get a
if
lot
If you
of,
can break that number down,
no, we have in the past.
that'd be easier.
yeah. Permit fees get broken down into farmer's market, food
He just wants to
retail.
know what the fees are.
You just wanna know,
Break it
He wants to know what the
whatever,
permit fees are, what the fines
however,
are.
however
Right.
granular
Yeah,
that you
we
can
have
give
that.
it to us, we can make
have
more
that.
stories out of
yeah,
it.
we have that, we have that.
We need to see it.
Yeah,
That's when,
fine.
that's when our mind
that's
thinks
why
that
Yeah,
it's
and
it's
it
didn't
doesn't,
use-
you just want a total, though, you don't need it broken down for each
No,
permit.
if he has it, then it's
Okay.
fine.
Yeah, Laura
What
has
if
that.
That
we
way-
have-
You've got that.
That,
right?
Laura has that.
that way,
Yeah.
it gives a chance for us to make up a write-up, justification for additional
Right.
food inspections
Yeah.
or other things that we need to know.
Yeah, the funds are there for additional
Sure,
stuff.
The more information, more we can argue for.
All right, so what specifically do you want Laura to send?
Like, if you have the, whatever granular breakdown that they have, that'll be fine.
Okay, we'll send that out. We can send it, we'll send that to everyone.
Yeah.
Mark, do you anticipate a big cost or time increase with the implementation of the 2013 code, or not really?
Well, that's one of the reasons we got a surface so it can be used out in the field more. I do expect a learning curve, and that is going to cause for additional hours and
Right.
so forth, so yes to that question.
Yeah, I would think so.
Mm.
Good point, good point. All right,
I mean, the progressive years of increasing the number of facilities that we are inspecting, that's what is quite important for us, with additional workload.
Yes, I agree.
We can break that down for the few years, that'll be easier, how many establishments, how many farmers market, Dragonfly, all that stuff. So, that adds.
Charting, pie charts. We took a course in that just last Wednesday, so Laura and I are ready to roll with the story.
I heard
So you
pie,
keep
that's all I
the pie
heard.
charts, just bring us
Pie
the pie.
charts,
Oh.
that's pie. That's some of the things we're gonna do, thanks to the training we had from our HR, Human Resource, and MIS Department, Information Systems. They were giving us some hints on how to use Excel as well as Word spreadsheets, you know, to tell that story that we keep trying to say, and now we're gonna get more colorful with it. So,
Good. All right, any other questions on the budget or public health nurse? Nope, good.
Mill Pond. We received a call last week from the State Department of Public Health's Division of Nursing and Rest Home Inspectional Services, or whatever the name is, exactly not that, and they wanted to know the status of the food inspections as well as any other concerns we may have. And I did tell them one of our major concerns was the calls we get and then the reply we get from our safety officers that indicate at times there's no staffing available when they get there. They may be there, but they may not be where they should be, and that's the front office.
Well, we've always seen that.
So I referred, they wanted more data on, I know, more data on that, and so I gave them 2 emails, one from a police officer, one from our fire department, and they are interviewing them right now. And the other question that came up was, how often are they inspected? And they sent back our notice, it's twice a year, every other year, unless a complaint is issued. So they've been a little better in respect to being responsive to our questions, I would say. It was nice to get that call. I was kind of happy to hear from them, but at the same time, I hope they will follow through. That's
Wow.
more important, so I can check in. They jump, what's interesting, the upper person jumped it down to the next person, and the person that called me made me jump it up to the middle person again, so the person in the middle is the person I'll have to deal with.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna pull any punches here.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I'm more frustrated with Massachusetts Department of Public Health healthcare facility, or I am more with Mill Pond. Because you wouldn't have got that phone call if I hadn't have talked to the people that I talked to.
Right.
It's
I
like,
agree.
you know, are you kidding me? Are you kidding
Well,
me?
that's why I said I was kinda happy to hear them call us, you know?
Like, you know, what more can a municipality do than send a letter to the department head saying, hey, can you pay attention to this? And then 3 weeks later, after I call some other people, whose names we won't bring up right now, and say, hey, how come we're not getting a response to this? And that's the response we get? Because that's why I wanted to come back to the board, because we didn't get any follow-up on this. We didn't get any.
Where are we at right now with Mill Pond?
Well, they've corrected the need for an oven and stove by putting in an electric stove. And now they have redundancy, but I'm still waiting. The plumbing inspector was part of that call last week with the state. And they wanted to know about the gas stove. The gas stove is hooked up but not to be used. And so when the plumbing inspector went out, they were using it, so he shut it down again. Told them they can't use it till they do the carbon monoxide testing. Supposedly the plumber that did the work didn't have a canister of it. I guess they sell CO spray or something to trigger the alarm. So that's that's pending. They can't use the original stove and oven until they get that test done. So that's where that one stands. And then the dishwasher's functional and works to the code of the food code. But years ago when they put it in or did some extra work on it, they did it without a plumbing permit. So they still will need to get that work done as well.
Are they being fined for being out of code?
They're not out of our code, it's now plumbing code, so they would have to either address it. I don't know if the plumbing inspector's planning to fine them, but
Okay.
So
we
as of right-
found them, but I don't know if it's
As of
gonna
right now,
fine them.
they're in compliance with us, though.
With the food code, yes, because that meets temperature, it's just someone hooked it up.
So they're
And
cooking
pro-
there, they're making
They
meals,
are cooking
okay.
there, yeah, they have the right to use the electric stove, but it'd be nice if they can get the gas stove. It works, it was updated to the needs of whatever the pilots were doing, the escape of gas, that's all been fixed. But they get that last step, and that's just to make sure the alarm works when there's an issue.
But I want to, because I think Diane asked the ultimate question. Are they in compliance with us? Because I cannot tell
Yes, according to.
anybody how many people that I know and I don't know who have reached out to me when this became public news. People from other towns, people have people inside
Yeah.
the facility, people
Yeah,
that
we
I know in
created a
town,
buzz,
and
for
people I
sure.
don't know, have reached out to me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you for doing this, you know, exposing this. So, and then when the MetroWest Daily News runs an article last week, well, they passed their food inspection. Okay, well, that's one part. Let's talk about the bed bugs. Let's talk about the smell. Let's talk about the lack of cleanliness. Just because they pass a
Well,
food inspection,
nutrition,
I don't think the
tourism,
public
yeah.
should think that, hey, they're out
That's
of
right,
the
that's
woods yet.
one
That's
portion.
one very small portion. And to Chris's point, if they still don't have the plumbing, like, is the town going to then hold
Plumbing
them?
inspector is holding them to the, he's going.
Well,
Retro
my
back?
question was twofold, because
Yeah.
I mean, I missed the last meeting, but prior to that, we fined them $6,000.
We fined them $1,200. We found
Okay.
out we couldn't fine them
Okay, so-
$6,000. Has to be each observation.
So
they
they,
have
right,
a-
so it was reduced down to 1,200?
Well, it was because we had to
Okay.
observe every single
Okay.
day to get to the
So
6,000.
have they paid the $1,200 fine?
They have an option to either pay or seek the courts.
Okay, within 21
Those
days?
21 days will be
Within
coming
21
up
days.
this week.
Okay.
I already got it in my,
Okay.
I think it's this week or next week.
They have a generator now?
I don't know if they
If
had,
the electricity
had-
electricity fails, they can't cook anything there, because the stove cannot
they,
be, gas
well,
stove
I
cannot be
know
used.
they had outside a generator, but not like a gen rack or anything, like an in-place generator. They had purchased one that you have to bring a wire inside, I believe.
But
Yeah,
is
I mean,
it-
if it's
So
just for
that's-
only lighting, that's not going to be
That's
heavy
right.
wattage, but cooking needs heavy wattage.
Yeah, I don't know, I
I-
never checked into
So,
that
and that wouldn't be,
because
would that be a state requirement, or that wouldn't be ours?
most likely, I mean, again,
Clearly
they,
can cook
it
food.
doesn't matter for us, because they need to
we're
cook
back
there.
to,
How are
Right.
they going to cook it?
How are they gonna
Electric
cook if
gas.
there's no power? Yeah.
we're back to her, what did she call it? Making stews and so forth in a crock pot, she had a name for it, hobo stew.
Cheerio stew.
That's a crock of you know
Yeah, I was
what,
gonna
yeah.
say, Mark,
Yeah, I mean,
Mark,
yeah.
now you-
a good
now you
use,
get
yeah,
my blood
yeah,
pressure up
Yeah, I
again.
mean, that's a
okay,
crock,
and
yeah.
I should be,
I'll-
but to
yeah.
answer your question, this is the response
But-
that we
And I'm
get.
not
You can't,
defending them, I'm just saying,
No,
if they
I
didn't have power
understand.
and they brought in food, they're in compliance, so they can't
Yeah.
use it if they don't have power, but we don't have a regulation that requires them to have a generator.
that would be the state again.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
No,
what
no.
I'm,
Well,
that's
see,
where I'm going, is it would be,
because if
I
a
would assume the
kitchen-
state would require to have
If
one.
a stove or oven's not working and they have substitute meals, will the state allow those substitute meals? It's really,
Well, as
and
long
the
as
state
that
knows
meal-
about that as well.
As long as that meal is catered from outside, from a licensed facility, that's fine for us, that they get fed.
Well, the state may say different.
That's
Well,
fine for us.
But see, but Mark, see, this is where I'm, like, my blood is boiling right now, boiling.
I can't tell you what the state's
Is-
gonna do.
You know, like I said, you know, the MetroWest Daily News runs an article last week, and Matt Sweeney, who I have no axe to grind with, he seems like a very nice man. But the patronizing comments, my word, patronizing comments in the article, oh, everything is good, everything is good. And then the state's response to this, like I said, I don't know if I'm more frustrated with the state or if I'm more frustrated with Mill Pond, is that, well, you know, if, when, if, no. What I wanted to have a conversation back with the board tonight after, you know, knowing that they called Mark last week, I'm appalled by the response. Like, a letter back to us, I mean, it's like, you know, letter back to, no, we see you want us to come out and do an inspection, we can't do this for this reason. We don't have any of that. We don't have anything in writing. We've exposed a huge problem, and I can't, you know, like I said, you can't, you have to take everything that people say to you, but there's always three sides to every story thing. The outrage that I've heard from people about this facility has only confirmed what I know,
Yeah.
and what KG saw over the summer as well, too, is that, but then more importantly, the agency that can come in and rectify this problem hasn't done it yet. So I am deeply concerned about that. Have they had conversations with management that we're not aware of? So the letter that I wanted to write last week is so much different than the letter that I want to write this week. And that's the reason why I wanted to get the board's feedback before I fired off a letter, because
Now, Mark, are they responsive, like when you spoke to them? I mean, does it seem like a two-sided conversation? Like you can ask them questions, you can get the information, like what are the requirements, what are we looking?
who are you talking
The-
about? Management or
No, you
state?
said, yeah, you said the state called you.
Yeah, I
do
spoke
they
to a
seem like-
person named
Yeah,
Elizabeth.
but the only reason they called is because I
Goatee.
called.
No, but I'm just thinking sometimes conversations go further than writing a letter. If you have questions or things that we need answered, they reached out to him, now he can reach out to them and say, these are the questions we need
But
to
it's
know.
not documented. That's my concern. With this facility, and you know the history with this facility, it's not documented, didn't happen.
Well, and they're not gonna document their response, and that's what we're looking for, is their response. That's what I'm afraid of.
Exactly.
We could put our questions in writing, but we're still not gonna get that in writing back to them.
I won't accept that, me personally. But I'm gonna do what the board wants to do, but that's not acceptable, is it? To have an agency not willing to put something in writing? I mean, you remember a couple of years ago, when we talked about, the apartments up at, next to Nyanza? Everybody says, you know, EPA and DEP's never gonna put anything in writing to this board. Well, they did, because I kept on hounding them to it, because I wanted the town to be, you know, have, you know, no, it's your thing? No, you put it in writing, and you reassure the residents of the town that, you know, I mean, hey, at the end of the day, the state agency works for us, the taxpayers. Not even necessarily us as the Board of Health, but they have to be accountable to, you know, the people.
Well,
And
the
more
good
importantly, they
thing
have to be
is-
accountable to the people who live there.
The good thing is the board as well as the town has had a good relationship with those people for all those years.
Mhm.
And that's why we got things
Absolutely.
in writing, and I just don't wanna, we need them and they need us, and I just don't want, I mean,
But we do need them, but they've been laxed for, is it fair to say, for a while on this, Mark? We reached out to them
The
last year.
state or Mill Pond?
we're talking about the state.
Talking about the state. We reached out to them over the summer, and we didn't get a response.
Yeah, the
As well.
state has been difficult to reach. I won't
Difficult to
disagree
reach
with that.
is the way, yes.
Yeah.
Not
and-
difficult to
and-
act, but
and
difficult
then-
to reach,
Well,
yes.
and then, I was gonna say, and then also sometimes to act.
So
Okay.
if you call the woman who called you last week and you ask her questions, okay, we had a.
I'm not allowed to anymore. She called and referred me to Steve Reed and
Okay, let's say you
her
called,
boss.
okay,
So
so
I
let's
I
say you
emailed
talked.
him. I have the email right in front of me explaining
No,
the
I just-
issue of no
I haven't got
one
my
on
question
site.
out.
Oh, sorry. No,
My
I'm just,
question, well, my question is that if you reached out to her boss and
Yeah.
said, we had a board meeting, the
This
board
is
has
her
some
boss.
concerns, and these
yeah.
are.
Oh, I can easily do that.
Right, that's just it. Do you feel that there's a good dialogue there? I mean, do you think you'll get
Well-
answers and get some assistance?
We'll see.
Or do you think it's better
I
to
don't
put it in
wanna
writing?
speak for the state. I think, you know, there's been
Just
some
looking for some
activities from the
guidance.
board with the state, and I think that activity has kinda helped out. I'm not gonna say it hasn't, because we're, getting more response because of letters that get generated.
I
So
think-
to answer
yeah.
your question, I think they will I think they
I think
know
the
they're
Board of Health
being,
meeting was really good.
they're being watched.
I
They,
know, but I think the Board of Health meeting and having it in the newspaper, I think helped, because there was a
Yes.
lot of people who
Yeah.
reached out.
Yeah. No, but I mean, the only response, and to be fair, I mean, you know, we're not the center of the universe, but the only response that we got is, I'm on vacation, I'll respond to you when I get back from vacation. And there's been enough time now that person has been back from vacation.
No,
I would have
yeah.
expected a response, which then prompted me to call last week to say, hey, what's going on? And then Mark got the call, so.
so,
I have one question for Mark on this one. Remember that Matt Sweeney, the guy who was in charge of this mill pond, had asked for past inspection reports? Did he get all those things did we send him, or we haven't sent?
She did, yeah, Laura, you sent,
Public
you
records
sent
request,
you
right?
Mill Pond all the inspection reports they were looking for.
Yes.
Remember Mark
Yeah,
Sweeney
yeah,
reached out
that's
to you?
oh,
She-
Matt Sweeney, okay.
Yeah.
Matt Sweeney, excuse me,
Matt
not
Sweeney.
Mark.
That's okay.
No,
Yeah,
you-
but didn't you guys find that to be odd?
I think that shows exactly what's going on.
Exactly, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that was-
Thank you, I agree, 100%,
I
yeah.
thought that was a
The-
good thing, that clearly he didn't know, or,
Right. I may be
Insinuate-
Said he
yeah.
didn't know.
right,
Right.
Either
so-
one.
Right.
If I may be permitted to get back to the Eversource, I forgot to question it. I think they did an environmental impact study. Did they produce a report and submit it to the town? And then we haven't seen it at Concom, and I was wondering whether we could get a copy that if you have seen one.
I have not seen one. Have you seen one, Laura? Environmental health impact report?
Can you check with Michael and get a copy for us so that we know what the environmental impact
For
study?
us
We have the
being.
bond.
Well, the
Obviously, you have-
Eversource, I think they did and submitted it to town. Michael Herbert may have it, I don't know.
Do you know of that, Diana?
I have the same binder that you do, I'm
So
not
if we
aware
can
of
get
it.
a copy,
I mean, we
maybe
can
an
check that.
electronic version, so just,
And they said they did
well,
it.
I think so, that's what I was
Okay.
told. But most of them have to do one anyway,
Yeah.
so they must have done one.
Yeah, I mean, if they have it, they should share it with, especially conservation,
Right.
you know.
John, you brought up Cirrus Apartments, but I'm not sure where their well water testing results are now, but if you haven't received one,
Sarah's
Get after them.
Apartments, they
Well,
just called
when they do their
today.
startup, they'll have to give us one.
they have not done that yet?
Still winter.
Yeah, this startup, they will, in the
Well, they were,
closeout, they do.
they were in such a hurry that they wanted next day the well water out.
They're still working with us.
Anyway, so keep in mind,
Yes. Is
I'm
this for
keeping
the,
track of three
you
of them.
want, is this for the next agenda item?
No,
No? Okay.
find out where their reports are, that's all.
'Cause I can-
Whenever they come up with it, if they do.
They may be coming, well, it's not on the agenda, so do you want me to
No.
update the board at the next agenda? And they just called today, actually, so I can put it as
I
future.
mean, the three facilities which said they would produce their test results to us, so. This is one, the green one, and then I think there's one next to the mill pond, there's a senior, 55 plus, they also came up, so.
Street, yeah, the lanterns.
No, Lanterns was the green,
Yes, that's
yeah,
right.
they came up last week for something else, and they know that they needed, they haven't started it.
And then there's Cirrus.
And there was one in that, next to Mill Pond, there is a 55 in Complex, I think that's the one.
Oh, that one's still an issue, Shadow Creek you're talking
Shadow
about.
Creek.
Yeah, there's still an issue, they haven't dug it.
Still haven't gotten even, the residents aren't too happy.
They all
No,
wanted,
Shadow-
next day
Shadow-
morning, they
Shadow
wanted
Creek
the
is-
well to be ready.
It's like on year 15 of that, getting that well tested. That well is still, it doesn't pass.
Still an issue.
Right, still doesn't pass. And you know, Duddy passed away, right?
I did not.
I
Oh,
didn't know
yeah,
that
Dud-
either,
Yeah, Duddy passed away, yeah.
no kidding,
Yeah, Duddy Masson, yeah. About a month ago.
no
Yeah,
kidding.
yeah.
Oh.
Lived a good life, interesting life.
Go back to the conversation
Yeah,
we were
but-
just having with this letter.
Yeah, I was.
And the idea of the state.
Sorry for the distraction.
No, that's okay. I'm definitely with you. It's frustrating. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't pursue it in some way. At the end of the day, though, we have no control over how they respond.
No,
So while I think we should pursue getting a response, and maybe to the people that we've reached out to that have reached back out to us by creating the buzz, maybe even, request that they go to the state and say, hey, look, this is a concern of ours. What I think, and I brought this up at the last meeting too, is really important, is to look at the things that we do have oversight of.
Mhm.
So anything
Correct.
that is under the oversight of the Board of Health, we gotta stay on top of them with inspections. We've gotta document every one, and any single time that there is an offense, no matter how minor or what, we have to fine them. And we do have some, at least, influence in terms of communication with the plumbing inspector and with anything else that is town-related that requires a permit or some kind of oversight to say, hey, you've got to go in there, you've got to inspect this, and you've got to hold them accountable. As long as everything we do in the town holds them accountable for staying on top of where they need to do, they'll be in a better place than they are, and the safety of their residents
I agree 100%,
is healthier.
but I don't think they have. We
Right.
still don't have an evacuation plan.
Right.
We still don't have an operating
Right.
stove. They cleaned up.
They do have an
They
operating
do,
stove.
they do.
Well, they have the
They have the
electric
electric
stove now.
operating stove, and they can use that. They don't need a CO detector for that.
Mhm.
They don't.
They
Uh-uh.
don't,
Right.
but they
And
do
I
for the
thought-
gas one.
And
But
correct me if I'm wrong, I
this whole
thought they
thing
did have an
started about the
emergency
gas
plan.
stove, though. This whole thing started about the gas stove.
That's right, they got called out on December 28th due to the
So
oil
December
gas.
28th, and it's now February, what's the date?
Well, what
Right?
the.
We still don't have a gas
It was
stove, come
on
on.
Friday night, I remember.
So-
Well, they had,
Before
because they had to put in a much larger
December
system if they were
28th,
gonna put in a new gas stove, so they chose to do electric so they could get it done quicker and less expensive is why they did it.
Yeah.
So they
Exactly.
But
had-
isn't,
right.
isn't the
But they
only?
still, I mean, they do have at least a stove, and then, if I remember correctly, they do have, like, not specifically an emergency evacuation plan, but an emergency plan, period. Didn't we determine
Yeah,
that we
they-
did submit that to the
They have a
board?
call
They
tree.
have a call tree.
They have a
right,
call tree, which we kind of berated them into.
Right.
But when Chris did further investigation on an evacuation, they do not have an
Well, with
evacuation plan.
in particular, Kathy in this room said that she had spoke to both of the churches in town, St. Cecilia's and the Federated Church, is that what it's called, the one across the street? I contacted both, and there is no record of ever having a conversation with either of
All right.
them.
I know this is a dumb question, but
Mhm.
is it a requirement of ours that they have it, or is it a requirement of the state?
It's not a requirement of ours, but when I say ours, I'm talking on behalf of the Board of Health. The town, and this is what we're planning to do after that evaluation, is have the emergency management director, which is Chief Roby,
Mhm.
sit down with them, Chief Roby, the Board of Health, and whoever else may be interested, to work out details that may not exist. Because obviously, Chris, if they don't have any records of communication, then they don't have something that exists.
Mhm.
And one of the most important parts of any emergency management plan in respect to a rest home and nursing home is that their staff, if need be, go to the shelter if a shelter is needed.
Right.
And those things need to be worked out so that way appropriate medicine adherence is being followed with their staff doing the work. There have been times where I know management there feels, well, you guys open up a shelter. And I said, we don't do it for individual needs. That's when you need to have a plan in place yourself. And we can oversee that plan. So it may be that they go to a hotel
Mhm.
and have a whole floor to all the people there. We will not open up a shelter if there's an issue there that they could have controlled. So they're responsible too for having their plans. And obviously if it's a winter storm or a hurricane, well, that's when the town all works together and we open up a shelter. And the emergency management director will make those decisions.
So,
But that's when they need to bring their professional staff with them, as the nurse or
Right.
aide or whatever.
so it's so it's a fire department, I mean, it'll be a requirement
It's
for
the
them.
emergency management director in this town. In most towns, it's your fire
Right,
chief.
okay. I
Dan,
just-
I'm sorry, that was a
Yeah,
long-winded
No, but I
answer.
just think, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously it's serious, but it's like, I mean, I'm sure
Yeah.
he's probably watching right now.
Yeah.
But, we should,
Hold on. For his sake, for his sake.
It indirectly becomes our responsibility, because people living there don't get any
well,
food
and
for
I'm
eating,
assuming
then
he
they don't.
probably knows, if
Yeah.
not, I just wanna make sure.
No, but this reared its ugly head last, what was it, Labor Day? Was it
Yeah.
last Labor Day? It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
when we had the problem up there, the original problem up there. And the conversation was, well, if we do have to get these people out of here, where do they go? And
Yeah.
there was no,
Right.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
should be,
I remember.
they should have a contract with a hotel.
and so here we are, what are we now, for 6 months later, and
Yeah.
we still don't have a plan.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
that's the concerning part to me.
It's frustrating, and I think, John, you and I are in a very similar place, and I'll speak for myself. And when I speak right now, I'm speaking personally as a citizen and not a member of the Board of Health, my personal observation of this place is they're not fit to have their doors open. I don't believe that residents should be staying there. I don't believe their residents are safe. I don't believe they're being cared for properly, and I think it's a shame. That said, as a member of the Board of Health, after enduring all of this over the course of my first year here, I think that we're at a place where it becomes frustrating and the lines are a little bit blurred with my personal opinions and the level of jurisdiction we have as a board. So I think whereby in an ideal situation, we want to see this place running at peak performance because that's what's best for its residents. But I think that we can very easily get caught up in spending an enormous amount of time trying to control things out of our jurisdiction and out of our control, and we have to be careful with that. We also have to be very careful in terms of stepping on toes. So I think we need to kind of put into perspective, and it might be just a matter of just laying it out on paper or talking about it out loud as we are now. And I think we've done a really good job of that. Tom has been on top of them. Those emails coming back from Tom has really been on top of them. He's been great. But they have been hitting those marks that we've asked them. You know, it took them forever to do it, and that makes it more frustrating. And it's hard because of the amount of time we've spent on them to give them credit for what they've done, because there are still things that need to get done,
Right.
and it's just get them done. But I think we have to try and go on a path of saying, okay, well, let's just make sure they're staying on track with what's within our jurisdiction, and then find the balance of where we go next. I do think that it's important that the state intervene. I think that we need to get a better response. I do think so, personally, and in my role here as me being an individual member of this board, I do think we need a better response. I do think the state needs to come down and look at them and see that we've been on them for so long, and there have been so many things. And yes, they have taken some steps that we've asked them, finally, but they should be watched at a higher level.
I agree with everything that you said, and I think you said it very eloquently. But I also say that once this board acknowledged that there was a problem, we own it. We own it, and we own the ramifications, good, bad, or indifferent.
Okay.
And if we don't get it undocumented, then it stops with us. And then, to your point, and I agree with you 100%, and I'll say it as a member of this board, people aren't being well taken care of up there, and that is concerning, and if we know that, then we own that problem as well, too. And I just think, you know, hey, we send it up to the state. The state could come and say, I'm sorry, Mr. Featherston, you're wrong.
Right.
They are meeting the minimum standards, and you know what? I pray that would be the response that we got, because then it goes back to the documentation piece.
Right.
Okay, well, if the
Sure.
state's fine with it, we might not personally agree with it, but in the purview of the law and purview of the regulations, okay, that's fine. Great, as long as you're aware with that, and you guys can sleep at night, I'm good with that.
Well, and I think sitting here.
Because I don't
now-
have to have them agree with me, but I have to have them put it in writing, I think.
Well, and I think sitting here now, from what Mark's saying is, as of now, the last inspection, they are in compliance with ours.
With the food,
Correct.
not with everything.
Well, there's other concerns that aren't our purview, but if we make sure that it's well known that there's issues that might not be our jurisdiction, but the people involved, make sure that they know, and maybe that's where we go next, is just make sure that, maybe it's a letter to the fire chief, maybe it's a letter to the plumbing inspector. Again, we could probably go on, but because then because we can't own something we can't fix.
Right.
Correct.
And then we know that, okay, that if there's something that somebody else needs to do, we've properly notified. And I'm sure everybody knows, but maybe it's going that route, because we can at least take care of the internal. I think we definitely got some attention for the state level.
No, but for Matt Sweeney, who like I said, I'm not picking on again tonight, but he's ultimately paid the big bucks to do this, sits at this table in August and says, I'm gonna take care of everything, I'm gonna take care of everything. And then, my word, the filth that we found, in December. So from August to December, you're telling me as the district manager, you're gonna take care of stuff. And from August to December, then we come back, we find filth, you're not taking care of stuff.
Right.
So once again, it's not, I don't judge people by the words, I judge people by their actions.
Sure.
Yeah, so, and that's, that's the only thing I'm saying that we have
Yeah.
to be cognizant. Because now, I wanna see all your reports and blah, blah, blah. Well, okay, you can see all the reports you want, you know, here they are, I'll give them to you. What are you gonna do about it? And that's what my bigger concern is.
Mhm.
Because to Diane's point, and she says it so well, is, okay, we can only look at X, Y, and Z, but we all know, because we've all been there, there's a lot of bigger concerns than even the stuff that we've addressed.
And I have not
What do
been
your
there
eyes
myself.
and, what do
but
your
like-
eyes and nose tell you?
I was gonna say, and I have not been there,
Mhm.
but, so the other concerns that we're talking about, is it concerns that would be addressed by the state or other local departments?
And that's the only reason why I want the state to, you know, come in. The state might say, hey, this is, you know, they're meeting the minimum standards. I mean, the minimums, and we all know, because we've all done this for a minimum standard does not mean that it's right. It's just a minimum standard. And there's a fine line between that. There can be a minimum standard, and there can be right. And I think we have to find that in between of what that is.
So do you think we would need to reiterate to them what our concerns are, or are you just looking for a response from our original letter?
Well, it's not me, it's the board that's.
No, but I mean,
No,
you're looking, I mean.
I guess when they were here, we have told them very clearly, they understood what they are getting from us, and what we need. And if they don't act on it, then looks like that they're not fit enough to manage that place, and they're not fit enough to listen to us, and then go back and say, oh, we didn't know, come on again, tell us again. They're not first-grade students here.
No, I
They
know,
need
but
to be
as
told
of
it.
right, and again, I'm not defending anybody, I'm just saying this, as of right now, they're in compliance with what we need them to do for us.
I understand, but we need to report to the state so that there are other facilities these
Right, that's what I'm
management
asking,
group
if
is
there's
doing it.
anything.
We don't know how they're managing it. If complaints from us as well as complaints from others will show that, then they are a perennial problem. That we need to make sure that it is resolved.
And
I
I'm
mean, the
putting,
human beings that they're there inside, and we need to keep them protected.
Yeah.
That's important.
I'm putting on a couple different hats here, but, you know, experience has, you know, shaped this. As, you know, the governor appointing to mass housing, right? Are you kidding me? Like, when I first got on, I'm like, people are living like this? Are you kidding? Even in our backyard, and, you know, protect the guilty here, but, you know, are you kidding me? And to me, public service, you know, it's the whole frustration of even how we started this meeting. Public service is not about money to me. Public service is about doing the right thing for the people. And as you know, as a housing agent, you go into some of these, people live here? Like, are you kidding me? And it's not, the problem is that these situations become a budget issue. They don't become a human issue anymore. Well, we don't have money in the budget this year, so we're gonna cut the budget. And until the sunlight is exposed on it, people don't know, and then when they do know, they're horrified.
No,
And that's what my concern is.
I know, and the thing is you as a person, as a board member over there, obviously have a high expectation for what we residents are living. But what's concerning to me, and again, I sat here and I had expressed my frustration, is if
Yeah.
they're meeting our
Right.
standards and we have nothing that they're in violation with, what's our leg to stand on?
If I could extend that a little bit and tell me if I'm, you know, if I'm in the same track of you or if I'm off campus. To John's point, and I'm with you, it's concerning. To Diane's point, if they're meeting our standards despite being smelly, right?
Mhm.
We know, we've been in there, people have been in there and say, well, it smells bad and it's not a suitable place. But they still met our standards. We can't do anything about it being smelly, right? We can make mention of it,
Right.
we can make light of it, we can bring
Right, and
it
if
to the
somebody
public.
complains next week, I don't see why
But
we
we
wouldn't.
can't fine them because they're smelly unless there's
Right.
something in our code that says you can't be smelly or you're gonna get a fine. And
But
you have to make it unsmelly.
Just having penned this letter and the board being, you know, unanimous in doing it, is we asked for them to come in and do a full investigation.
Yeah.
We haven't,
No.
and that
We
hasn't
should
been
have maybe
acknowledged.
put that we wanted a I mean, maybe, I think what's concerning is that we never received an actual response.
Right.
That's what,
And I-
We
and
got a
that's all my
phone, we had,
concern.
but we got a phone call doing the investigation.
Mhm.
Only because I called other people.
But that's exactly my point when we started this. Is another letter going to get us what we're looking for, is making a phone call, whether it's Mark or yourself, to say, we sent a letter, we want a response, they're meeting our requirements, but we don't feel that they're meeting the other requirements. Because clearly you got a response, you got them to respond by calling someone.
Mhm.
And maybe that's what's necessary. They clearly are not responding to this a month later.
Or did it get lost?
Well, I don't, I mean, they just happen to reach out to Mark to do an investigation?
I like.
No,
I like
they
what-
didn't reach
I
out
like
to
what-
Mark.
I
They-
like your idea, you know, because
Call them, rattle their cage. I mean, just,
Diane's got a great point, that make the connection by phone, right? And to your concern for documentation, send a letter after the conversation,
Mhm.
thank you for having the phone call,
Yep, that's a good
and,
point.
and document the phone call.
That's
We
a
do
great
that in our
Well
office
said,
all the
yeah.
time.
and even if we received something from them about either an investigation or they've done inspections or something in writing to
Well, they did respond to that last Wednesday.
respond to what the letter?
The question about are they doing investigations, they did respond. They said, to answer your question about the survey cycle, rest homes get their licensure survey on a 2-year schedule.
Now, here's a thought. Can we as a board, and what the legal ramifications are, but can we as a board make a recommendation to, say, a consumer advocacy group or a consumer advocate at a news station to say, we have these concerns and they're documented in our meeting notes and we wanted to make you aware of it. And maybe that will get one of them to go and bring it to the press at a larger level, and that maybe that will escalate it to a point where things will
Would
get
you
done.
be willing to reach out to the gentleman who contacted, well, the boss, who they
Gibbons, his name, Stephen.
Oh, yeah,
Gibbons.
absolutely, yeah.
Because, I mean, he got a call from one person, they said, if you have any questions, call my boss, so maybe,
Can you send that to me tomorrow?
Yeah. I'll try to get an update from the plumbing inspector as well.
Okay.
That to you.
Then when and if we make any contact, I'll let you guys know via email what happened. Okay.
Is there a time frame by which they have to fix this gas stove? Or
As long
they
as
can
they-
take their own time and the plumbing inspector can come
They
whenever he wants it, or is there a time scale that we have to fix it?
They could take their time, I suppose, because they unfortunately, they have a cooking device in there.
As long as they can cook, yeah, there's nothing we can do. Mr. Sony, you've been waiting patiently?
Yes, I kind of been hearing this, and Mark Sony, 49 Hawthorne Road, yes, this is better late than never, citizens' participation.
Okay, quickly.
And Mill Pond is basically your discussion among the board, but it's not gonna go nowhere unless there's a cease and desist sort of thing. You gotta get the state and hound the state to put the boots to the ground. Or else the residents are gonna have to be suffering. And until that does happen, nothing's gonna happen. I did come in earlier, and I talked to the plumber inspector, and he told me all about the electrical stove oven and all that, and that they say it was good for now, but it's not good for what it's gonna be done.
Mhm.
And what's not good enough to be done, the management should have a subpoena enforced on them to get the forces together. Without this subpoena, this is gonna sit on the hands and do really not much. Figure that the board is only a board and not a state thumbs on.
I would agree.
And the earlier is, I was told by Mr. Oram, the health agent, about the budget. I know you're not talking about it anymore, but I heard about the budget, I heard about the steps and stuff like that. To, Mrs. Mortensen, who told me the steps that happened, I'm not going there no more. Thank you for telling me. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Thanks, Mark. All right.
all right, I do have to leave for 9, so I just,
Okay, well then let's hurry up. Review of alcohol policy learning session, Central MetroWest Substance Abuse Prevention Collaborative.
Okay, and you should all have a packet in your files to show some of the handouts that were provided at an alcohol policy learning session held on, I think it was January 31st. And the main speaker was DJ Wilson. We're all familiar with DJ. And Colin Gallant is the person that is the coordinator of our 9-town region as it relates to this grant. And his goal is to try to get people to update their regulations. He did compliment Ashland. He said Ashland has a very thorough set of regulations, including tips training, as well as he mentioned other areas of comparison. But one area that is being looked at is liquor outlet density. How many liquor stores do you have per population, per miles, so per population and per density, so density and mileage and square miles included. DJ Wilson was promoting the effectiveness of tobacco programs and how well they have worked through the years in changing the way things are done. Might it be doing compliance checks, inspections of just the facility itself. So it was interesting, and one of the ideas that was discussed was banning nips, because nips you see all over the road, so you know if they're on the road, they probably came from a vehicle. So that was also discussed at the meeting. So there were different ideas being shared, and you know, you can look through the handouts at your leisure. If you have any questions, if I can help, I'll answer it. If not, I'll get you to Colin.
Any other questions? I know there was talk about filing legislation about the NIPS. Did that come up?
There was different forms of, I think one time, was it Chelsea, maybe, that is looking at that or has done it, and other towns looking at a fee. But I believe Chelsea was the town that's already banned NIPS.
I think you're right, yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, John, the legislation I think that was being spoken of was whether or not to include NIPS in the deposit.
That's another town doing that too, yeah,
Yeah.
just so that they get picked up at least.
Yeah.
Plus, I think Jack Lewis shared a thing about that. Jack Lewis shared something
Jack
about that.
Lewis, I think so, yeah.
All right. What do we have next?
Review
Public health?
emergency funds. We receive funding for conferences. Mike Gurnick's going to a national conference. He's our Medical Reserve Corps chair, as well as it's paid for some past funding for two of my two different conferences, a day each. And also we're going to be requesting supplies and information on Stop the Bleed for training, as well as kits and other supplies that may come in handy during an issue of an emergency, such as if we have opened up a shelter, charging stations, strips of maybe 20 plug-ins, because the charging stations don't require a lot of power, they require a lot of outlets when people need to charge their electronic devices, as well as toiletries, because if you're in a shelter for a while, people don't bring all that with them. We're hoping to at least get them to bring their medicine, cold and hot packs.
How much money did we get, Mark?
What's that?
How much money did we get?
Well, this is a joint effort between, now it's 64 communities, so we are getting supplies, not money at this point. But I could finalize a number to some closeness. So that's part of our public health emergency
The only
funding.
challenges that I see in that, when you start looking at outlets and charging stations and all that kind of stuff, now you're thinking about potentially affecting building code,
Oh, okay.
right?
Well, it would be like an
If
electrical
you're
outlet
changing,
plug-in.
if you're adding plugs and changing the
Yeah.
amperage, and the load, you may be beyond the load capacity of the building by certain things.
We'd have to ask, because that's a
Yeah.
good point. We were told that they trickle charge, they really don't demand a lot.
Yeah, I
Such
mean,
as a cell
it may
phone.
not, but it potentially can.
But if you had a bunch of them, yeah, I
Right.
see what you're
Yeah.
saying, you don't wanna
Yeah.
be blowing fuses.
Got 100 phones
Yeah,
being charged.
yeah,
all the
that's a good
time.
point. It is.
Good. Well, that's good to hear. Michael is a key asset, too, so good for him.
Are you asking
Yes.
for emergency lights also?
We have them. We have
Good
emergency
for them.
lights. That's not being offered this year as a group purchase, but we do have emergency lights available in our trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And the nice ones, they go up
Yeah.
in stands.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
They're very powerful. Oh.
Next one, KJ, I think was it the last meeting, KJ? You
Yeah.
wanna get an idea of who's submitting the addendum, food permit, process. For food permits, for restaurant-style ones, we so far have 19 returned of the total of, let's see, it would be total of 45. So with that said, we have 42%. On the retail side, such as Market Basket and other facilities of that nature, we have 4 out of 17, so we're only at 30% there, so, we're hoping to get more. Do we have more? So we have, 5 out of 13.
We have sent another email for them to respond.
Yeah, so
Good.
Highlighted means we did, or highlighting
They
means we
did.
did not?
They did.
they did, the highlights
Okay.
are they did.
Good. Any other thing?
Nothing, once they have all of them, I'll just go down and sit down and then make some analysis out of it and then see where we stand.
Good.
And Jane would be happy on the next, Jane Walker. She's going to be announcing the need for Green Up volunteers, and thank you, Dr. Eskovitz. I know you offered your time on the day of, we appreciate it. She'll be announcing at the Selectmen's meeting, but anyone interested in being part of the Green Up cleanup event in Ashland, it's always the first Saturday in May. This year it's May 4th. Just feel free to reach the Board of Health office, and we'll get you all set up.
Good. All right. Finished with your
Yes.
report, sir?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Good report.
Thank you.
Review of minutes for January 29th and February 5th. Does the board want to take action on either one of those?
We can do the 29th.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of January 29th, 2019.
I'll second that. Further discussion? Seeing none? All in favor? Aye.
I have to abstain, I
I
wasn't.
was not there,
Okay.
not present.
302. Okay. And then we have minutes from February 5th.
I wasn't here.
I will make a motion to approve them as submitted.
I second that.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
One abstention.
And one abstention. All right.
Before we adjourn also, we had talked about doing the Public Health Award on March 19th,
Mhm.
but wondering if we could do it on April 2nd so the family can attend. Won't be
That's in-
available on the 19th, so I don't know if
I
you-
won't be there the 19th either, so that would.
Okay, so we can do it April 2nd then for the award?
I'm all for it.
Okay. Great, thank you.
We all good?
Just looking at a future topic, something that I'd like to, maybe if it's okay with you, Mr. Chair, if maybe Mark, you can make a statement on the overall water quality in town.
Mm.
There's been some rumors around town that I've heard as a citizen, that there's issues with water in certain places or what have you. I never responded to them, I overheard them simply.
Yeah, and we direct those questions,
Yeah.
and I can get a statement from
Yeah, I
the
mean, if
water
you
and
get,
sewer
I mean,
superintendent.
I know that there's the general water quality thing that goes out every year in the house, but just, I think it would be helpful if you made a general statement as to
Sure.
the overall water quality that we are now. and
I'd be glad
just
to.
quell rumors.
It'll be based on what I
Yeah.
get from the superintendent.
It's the same thing like that's what we had about a few years ago, people when we were in
Mhm.
Ashland there, they came and complained about muddy water, murky water
Yeah.
that they had. Most of them were living in apartment complexes.
Yeah.
And then possible causes that the pipes may
Yeah.
have had a leak and
Mhm.
the construction dirt might have gone.
There's
or
been a lot of
something. I don't
chatter,
know
to your
about
point.
that.
There's- yeah.
Quite a lot of
And I
chatter.
just think I think that if we can help reduce rumor with fact.
Mark, didn't
that's-
you forwarded us an email? didn't
Yeah,
you?
I
Said-
did.
Said it
I
was
can-
pristine, I think it was the exact word.
Yeah, Dan Morrow, he's our water and sewer superintendent, and
Right.
he got information from our plant operators at our water treatment plant. I can say that when interns are here in the summer, I take them for a tour, thanks to the water department being very generous. We have one of the state-of-the-art water treatment plants in the country,
I would-
so.
Best-
Have you
best
guys
thing
ever
is to-
been?
No.
Best thing is to suggest those
Pretty
people who
interesting.
complain is to
Pretty-
get a
pretty
sample
neat.
of water in a clean bottle.
And that's what Dan Morrow.
That's where we would know, rather than,
I was
see,
gonna
what
say-
we test on places we know of, but we don't go and test in their place, so.
Would the board find it beneficial if you guys, if we scheduled a tour there?
I'd love
I
to
think,
go.
I think you would, I mean, it's not jaw-dropping, I mean, it's impressive in its simplicity, but I mean, the devil's in the details there, and like, the details are pretty amazing, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you've been there,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. All right, so we can do that, yeah,
Yeah.
good. Any other topics for,
Yeah, just throw on so Diane and I can discuss anything that we,
oh, good, good
anything
point.
we
Great point.
find out on Monday.
Okay, so follow up on
Sounds good.
task
Yep.
force. Yeah. Anything else, KG? You're awful quiet.
Nothing, an update on Nyanza whenever it comes up in April, March, that's when usually it comes up.
Yep.
so.
There was still talk of doing another tour, but
Yeah,
it doesn't do much good when there's snow on the ground.
no. Probably
What was the talk
April.
of doing that in the fall or the spring, or what was it?
Depends on what they have available for updated information, they being EPA, DEP, but one or the other. Usually it's spring or fall.
Now that winter is almost over, landfill, solar plant, solar farm for up on Nyanza, do we have any updates on that?
No, nothing at this point. I mean, we've had our meetings on it, but no further discussion has occurred or information has been received.
And John, just to piggyback onto that, Mark, and you had sent us, and I don't know if we can talk about it now, but the gas mitigation information. So, I mean, maybe next time, your explanation of how you think things are working and,
At the
I mean,
landfill?
because I can read
Oh,
a
sure.
bit,
yeah,
but
know what you're
I don't
talking
necessarily know exactly how to interpret all that.
That's
If
fine.
things are working well enough,
Yeah.
what your opinion is.
about. That's fine, I can
Yeah.
do that under my agenda, sure.
Incidentally, the bridge construction that's being done here has been changed from iron to wood bridge or something, and then they were probably going to go to the EPA to get a clearance on,
All wood?
yeah,
Really?
that's what I want to do.
Hopefully
Because of the
pressure
cost
treated
issue.
wood.
Yeah, really, yeah.
Because of
I
the
know.
cost issue, so they have to use multiple points in the river there. So if you find any reports coming through with that
Yeah, I didn't
from the
even know
EP,
that, KG.
nothing has come up yet, but if it does come up in the future, keep us in mind.
Seems
that
odd that they would go all
If
wood.
it comes to
though.
me, I'll send it to you, but if it comes
Okay,
here.
sure, vice
I imagine
versa.
it's gonna have a long lifespan.
No, I wouldn't think so.
It's gonna be hard.
And if,
as long as
and
it's
if
very
it's,
long as well.
if it's too expensive to do it the right way now, like,
Just don't do it.
no, I think it's,
Save up.
I think it'd be good, but yeah, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, could I figure out maybe my idea for a future item, agenda item?
If you just go to the mic so the nice people at home can hear you. Okay.
Okay, the future agenda on my mind, just came up in my head right now. How does a community qualify for a heart, healthy community?
I don't know. We'll find out though.
And with that, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Second.
I second that.
Further conversation? Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you and good evening.